Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Yo, what's poppin', Rush Nation? Welcome to draft night, baby. My wife's probably going to text me telling me I'm being too loud, but hey, it's draft night. It's a party. Let's do it. It wouldn't be draft night if we didn't mock draft, but we're not going to go through a mock draft right now. Murf and I have both done one each, and we're going to compare them because everybody's done a mock draft or 5,000 mock drafts by now. And to do another one would just be silly. So we've got to the last point where we can possibly mock draft, and Murf and I have done one, and we're going to compare them and chew the cud, and hopefully you guys get involved. Big man, how are we?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, it's draft night. I'm going to precursor my mock in terms of my mock is not what I think teams should do, nor do I think they're sensible. This is what I think is going to happen. I feel like that's an important distinction because there's a lot of picks in here I think are absolutely stupid. But this is, unfortunately, I just think this is the way I think it's going to go down. So we're going to see. So we're all good.
You've put the NFL on blast.
No, I've put certain teams in the NFL on blast, but stupid teams do stupid things. Like this happens every single year, right? I think if you were picking this on an exercise of what teams should do, then it would look very different. And I think the thing I would say with this draft, and I think we've talked about it quite a bit, and other podcasts have talked about it quite a bit, is there isn't a lot of elite talent in this class. I don't think there's 32 first-round picks in this class. I don't think there's 20 first-round picks in this class, if I'm being brutally honest. I think there's a lot of decent players, but I don't think there's a lot of production at the top end of this class. And so this is the worst year to be picking 1 through 10, because I actually think that a lot of the picks 11 to 20, in terms of position, I don't think there's a lot of difference. I don't think there's a lot of... Quarterback is the exception here, and cornerback to a degree. But outside of there, I don't think there's a lot of variance outside of them. So let's get to it. So I think what we'll do, we'll pull yours up first, talk about how you got to these 32 players without going into any specifics. I've also noticed you've got no trades, so you don't think there's going to be any trades tonight.
It wouldn't be fair for me to put trades in because I don't think I'm very good at actual real life NFL trade value. So okay. I didn't do it purely based on the fact that I'd be giving stuff up that wouldn't happen in the NFL. So,
oh yeah, I wouldn't have cared about that. But my point is that you don't have anyone trading in back into the first round tonight, for example.
There is massive potential for that, especially if somebody wants to grab that 5th-year option on a quarterback potentially at the end.
Yeah.
We see it all the time. I just went straight in with a mock that I thought was best fit for the teams, really. And I, like I said, my trade value for the actual NFL is terrible. So it wouldn't be fair for me to have done any, really.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. Like, I mean, I think our mock drafts are very similar. I do have the one trade, which I will come to. Which is going to be slightly different from what I've been saying for weeks, but my value and what I think teams should do versus what they are actually going to do are very different. I'm not claiming I know more than the NFL, by the way. I just think that I have a very distinct view on players and they are where they are. And I think some teams will put their job security or lack of it at risk with just like rolling the dice and hoping something comes out. So I do have the one trade. We'll get to it. Let's get started. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on the first pick of the night. We both have gone the same way. I think it's fairly automatic that Cam Ward is going to be going to Tennessee. I don't imagine there being any shocks that this would be the pick that comes out at 1:30 this morning.
No, this would be a good time, Murph, to tell the people listening on the audio that this is one of those video shows where Murph and I, excuse me, I've got a frog today, come over and watch on the YouTube or come and watch live next time if you get the chance, because this is predominantly a video show. Murph and I mock drafts are going to be on the screen. We will talk you through them.
And I'll post them on the X Machine and everywhere else, so you will be able to see it. But if you still have the audio preference, and then we'll go into YouTube. That's absolutely fine. You can just screen grab the mock drafts and you can flick between them as we're talking about them. But so you and I have gone Cam Ward at 1. I don't think this is a big shock. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time here. I don't think we need to really kill it too much. We have a difference at 2. So you've gone with Abdul Carter at 2. I have gone with Travis Hunter at 2.
Yep.
Talk to me about why you think the Browns are going to take Abdul Carter here.
I mean, there's a potential that they pick a quarterback, which would be silly. But I think Travis Hunter is obviously the enigma in this draft class. We don't know what's going to happen. And I think the Browns, for once, make a sensible move, pick Abdul Carter, and just stack that defensive end with him and Myles Garrett and just say this year we're going to go after everybody, especially in the division. They've got to go after the quarterbacks in their division. So that was my reasoning over taking Travis Hunter.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. I believe they're going to take Travis Hunter. I think they're looking for special players on offense. Their offense is what's really sort of lagging. And I think they're going to take Jalen Milroe in round 2.
Oh, okay, fair.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking here in terms of what these guys, I think for me, I think Travis Hunter is going to give them what they need. I think he'll play some snaps at corner, but they have a lot of great cover corners already. So I don't think he's going to be required to play a high volume. I think he'll play under a third of snaps at corner. And I think that'd be more to placate Hunter because he wants to kind of do both. But I think he'll spend the majority of his time learning this offense and getting there. So, I really see them going with Hunter, and I see them go with Milroe because I think they've got Milroe's former coach as their offensive coordinator in the building. So I think that's going to happen. So that was my reasoning for it. And then we flip-flop. So I have gone Carter at 3, and I just think it's best player available for the Giants. I wouldn't say this is the screaming need, but I don't think you can pass on Carter. I think when you look at those 2 players that have gone off the board, I think Abdul Carter, there's an argument that Abdul Carter is probably the best player in this draft. You could argue Travis Hunter. I think you could make a case either way, but I think to kind of move Carter out of the top 3 would be mad, and I think the only way that happens is through trade. And I think if the Giants end up on the clock, I think they're going to have to punch the ticket on the best player in the draft. And I think if you don't, I think on your head be it.
Questions need to be asked.
Yeah, I really think that. I mean, you have obviously gone Hunter, and I imagine it's for very similar.
It's exactly the same. Best player available. If it could go either way, the Browns and the Giants here, if no trades are done, it would just be whoever the Browns fancy, the Giants will get the seconds.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I think you could make a great case that Travis Hunter would definitely be a big need for the Giants, and maybe they could trade up and try and make the Browns move away, but I think they'd have to have done that by now. If in my world, but in your world, I can see how it lands like this. 4th pick, we've both gone with Will Campbell. Pretty clear the best tackle in this class. I don't think there's any real shock horror. Now, the best tackles in classes don't tend to be the first ones off the board. There tends to be a little bit of debate here, but I think the Patriots are one of these teams that do build from the trenches. They know that they're not competing in 2025, and I think they're going to build their trenches well here. They could trade down. There's the argument here that they could trade down, but I can't imagine people are clamoring up here to trade up. There are some good tackles in the first round. I don't think Campbell, as good as he is a player that you need to farm extra picks for. No. I think some of these guys later on are good tackles that I don't think you're unhappy if that's who you get in your slot.
Yeah. I mean, their offensive line was terrible last year, and they haven't done really anything in free agency, so they need to bolster. I've seen a whole load of stuff today that the Broncos are just going to move up and get Ashton Genty. Just throw caution to the wind. No, I can't. But if the Jacksonville Jaguars want him at 5, the Raiders want him at 6, that means the Broncos have to go up to 4 to get him. And that would make me sick. But also, please don't.
Yeah. I mean, you'd need a lot there to really get to make that worthwhile and put a lot of pressure on. But we'll see what happens. Speaking of the Jags, so you've gone Mason Graham here for the Jaguars, whereas I have gone with Ashton Ginty here.
Yep.
So you think that the Jags are going to be rather sensible here and actually do something that I will tell you this, that your pick from my head in terms of what a general manager should do for this team is 100% the right pick.
Thank you.
I could make the case for Graham, or I can make the case for one of the tackles here. I could even make, they're the two. Like, for me as a GM, that pick makes a lot of sense. Like, I look at that as that's what the Jags should do.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a very logical point. So I'm not even going to argue you on why you've got him there, because from a logical standpoint, you are absolutely right. Like, that is a big need, and arguably, like, he'll stop the run. Like, I look at Mason Graham, very similar to Vita Vea many years ago now, that he will come in and your run defense will go up 50%.
Yeah.
And I think he's an exceptional player, and I 100% think he's worthy of a top 5 pick.
Part of me wanted Ashton Ginty not to go there for fantasy purposes as well, because that backfield is a little bit murky. So I went with potentially pick the best player for the team and keep a little bit of Ashton Ginty back just in case.
Whether it's I've gone for them being stupid and taking Ashton Ginty. Now, I'm not worried about him for fantasy value. In fact, I actually think for fantasy football he goes very well. I think Travis Etienne will find his way off the team, and I think he'll clear that backfield pretty quickly. And we've seen what Liam Cohen did last year with the Buccaneers as offensive coordinator, that he took a team that couldn't run the football for several years and got elite production out of guys like Bucky Irving. Rashad White didn't do too bad. Sean Tucker did well when he came in. So for fantasy purposes, I really like Ashton Ginty here. That's not why I've done it. I've done it. I just think that the Jags are naive, that they think that they're a couple of players away from competing. And admittedly, they're in a really poor division. You know, you got to look on the landscape of it, that the Titans are pretty bad. The Colts, pretty bad. There's an argument here that Ginty could move the needle in a, I don't want to say a deluded world, but in a rainbow world where everything's rainbow tinted and colored and everything's all happy land, and everything's just all happy and bright and colorful. Then you could make that case that Ginty gets you wins, because they didn't run the football. They didn't run the football well last year, and if they had, would they have got a bit better? Maybe. I argue that they've got a lot of holes. And I argue they've got other needs, especially stopping the run. So, I don't love this pick from a team getting better, but from a fantasy perspective and from that'll be fun. Then I can see it really working. So, you have Ginty going next then. So, thoughts on him going to the Raiders?
I just think it's been talked about for so long that it's the thing is the Chicago Bears are going to come in and trade up and get him above everybody else, because that's something Bearsish that might well happen. But I just think that it's been talked about for so long that it's almost locked in. And the Raiders, I think the Raiders should have gone offensive tackle at this point, and I had them going tackle, and then decided to just do what everybody was doing and put Ashton Ginty here. And they do need a decent running back, and they don't have one. So
that's fair. I think this is a new Raiders, right? So for me, I look at this organization, and we talked about this when they traded for Geno Smith, that this is an organization where they are trying to do it right, and they're trying to get a bit smarter, and they've gone and got a QB on a pretty decent deal who is a top 15 quarterback who will come and do a job and allow them to rebuild the rest of this roster. You've brought in Raheem Mostert. I know he's not the end-all be-all, but he's a pretty capable running back that, you can go and get a guy in round 2, round 3. And as you say, they needed a tackle. I I think they're going to go and get a tackle. I think you've just gone and traded for Gino. I think you're going to need to go and get some protection behind that line. So I've got them going with Kelvin Banks. Because I think that this organization is trying to get a bit smarter and actually eradicate the mistakes of the past. So I am giving a benefit of a doubt to a team that probably hasn't earned much, but through that Geno Smith and some of the things they've done in free agency, I can see a different way of thinking. That I think for me, knowing Pete Carroll and his experience, he'll want to protect his quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think that's the route that they'll go down. But listen, I think it's just as possible they could do something crazy, right? But and if Jinx is on the board, that will be a really interesting point. Do they get a rush of blood to the head and pull the trigger, or do they do the sensible thing? I think in my mock, the decision's kind of made for them, and therefore that makes it a lot easier to make the sensible choice, because the only other piece you'd look at there and think all they could do is go and move up for Tet, or go and take Tet McMillan, which in a world you could see, but even then I just think they'll do it right.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to run this back, I think actually I'd probably have taken Membu here, and then with Chip Kelly being offensive coordinator, they'd go and get one of the Ohio State backs in the next round.
Yeah,
it makes sense, and I got a bit excited basically.
Yeah, listen, it's part of the fun here. Speaking of Membu, we have him going next. Both of us do. So, in fact, our next couple of picks are very similar here in Membu. For the Jets, it's sensible. They need a tackle. He's a tackle there. He's available. It kind of makes sense, right? Then we both have Jalen Walker going to the Panthers. I could see a world where they go Will Johnson at cornerback, but I think Jalen Walker he's probably the safer pick, and I think they've been burned so frequently in the draft that they probably want to just hit a strong double here, as opposed to throw caution to the wind and get a guy who could be incredible or could be awful.
Yeah, it's funny you said Burns, because they need to replace Brian Burns as well. So
yeah,
so
that's what we'll see what happens here with that. 9, we've gone very differently. You have gone with Seamus Stewart for the Saints, and then I have also gone with a Saints, or I've also gone edge, but I've picked a different edge. I've gone Michael Williams, who I think is probably higher rated on boards than he is in the mock draft process.
Yep.
And I think that's just a player they really like, and I think that's one they'll do. But I think we've both identified the position as just a preference. And I think if you were going off pure rankings of abilities of edge, I don't argue you that Stewart is probably the better prospect, but I think Michael Williams has a bit more star quality for me. I think he's got that ability to be really elite, but he could also be a project for a team. He's a bit of a hybrid player, so there is some work that needs to be done there.
I mean, we've seen the Saints take athletic, defensive ends first round previously, so it's not. We're both on the same line.
Yeah, absolutely that. And we've both gone the same in with the Bears. So we've both gone Tyler Warren here. I thought I was being really bold with this pick, but it seems to me that you are equally as bold, or we're just doing something that we think is going to happen, and it seems to be picking up more and more steam.
The reason I did it is because, Cole Kmet, they have Cole Kmet, but he's not exactly been an absolute trailblazer, has he? He's been okay. And then they've lost Keenan Allen, haven't replaced him. Go and get an absolute weapon, and then you can also protect your young quarterback by doing 2 tight end sets if you wanted to. So that was my out there take on Tyler Warren.
Yeah, I'm with you in the sense of this front office last year told you that they want to just give him playmakers, and I think Tyler Warren is definitely that. And as you say, with the protection, but I think just as a playmaker, I think they're trying to give Caleb Williams an option to where he can get rid of the ball quicker, and Tyler Warren probably gives him that better option over the middle there. Mm-hmm. So 11, you've gone. You've gone offensive tackle. I've gone defensive tackle. So you have taken Kelvin Banks for San Francisco, and I have taken Mason Graham. Both players in reverse mocks have gone. So, what was your thinking here with taking Banks?
Why
here?
offensive? They need help on both sides. Their trenches are pretty depleted at the moment, and I just think for the Niners, Kelvin Banks fits the mold. He's pretty good across the offensive line. Like, he's not just locked in to tackle; he can play guard as well. So if you're struggling in the trenches and you can pick up pieces later on and slide him about if needs be, it works for me.
Yeah. I think there's a fit there. I think they've just got a bigger need at DT, and I think if Mason Graham does fall, I think he's a phenomenal value here. I hate that term fall. I don't know why I used it, but they can't stop the run to save their lives, and I think they need a player who's going to do that. And I really think that Mason Graham is someone that will do that. So yeah, but as you say, they could go either way. They could go linebacker. They could go safety. They've got a few holes here, the 49ers. So I think this is the first pick where I sit there and look at the board thinking they are kind of the pivot for the next few picks, because they could do a number of different things and they could kind of choose the destination for the rest of this. I think in my board, it was best player available as well as a big need. On your board, probably very similar case as well, actually, looking at it. So there's that argument as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes up.
Do you know the next pick? I cannot believe we have the same player.
No, I was just thinking that. Like, I thought this is like a typical Jerry Jones pick, but one that I haven't seen in a lot of mocks, and yet you and I have sat here and done the same thing, which is, and we, by the way, like, let's preface this, that Stocks and I did not see each other's mock drafts. I literally loaded them in right before the show started.
Yep.
So we didn't see these, and they're even done on different mock draft machines. Like, I've used PFNs and you've used PFFs. So Ted McMillan is probably a bit spicy, but I think this is the Jerry Jones pick, right? He loves a splashy player here, and I think this just screams of a Jerry Jones success pick here.
Yeah, and the fact that they went into last season with basically just CeeDee Lamb and nobody else viable at receiver. So if you're going to have two decent receivers, Tet and CeeDee Lamb are pretty good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know what that would do to Tet's value. I think it would hurt it a bit, but it will be interesting to see what sort of happens there. Right, we move into the Dolphins here. You've gone Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, and I have gone Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. So similar thinking here, that we've gone with defensive line players here.
Yep.
So I don't think we're too far apart here, and I would also again go to this whole. I actually think you've got a player. Do I think? I'm trying to think where Grant ranked in the process. I'd argue he's probably higher than Nolan, but I actually don't have him going in the first round. So maybe not. I don't know. It's an interesting one, but I think we both agree, getting that defensive line sorted for the Dolphins is critical here. So I think we've gone the same way, and we've gone the same thinking on pick 14 here with Colston Loveland, the tight end for the Colts, even though I famously said that the Colts won't take a tight end because they've shown us how little they value a tight end. And yet I have decided to change that, because I look at the board now at this point and think their needs and what they need versus value isn't there anymore. Now, I could expect them to trade back in this scenario and then go and pick a player of need, but I could also see them going with Loveland here, given that they've got some problems at quarterback. Yeah,
It's a bit of a luxury pick for them, as you mentioned, but Loveland can block. Anthony Richardson needs some help along that line as well. It's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a load of sense. Like it's a sensible pick. It's a very sensible pick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know if they'll do it. It'd be interesting, but we'll see. Pick 15, we got the same. We got Will Johnson to the Falcons, which I absolutely hate because I really like Will Johnson.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I really hate mocking good players to the Falcons. Like that does annoy me. There's some question marks about him, but this just like fit glove perfect. Like it's nailed on. This is a really really good pick for them if it happens. I'd be really annoyed.
Yeah, I would too. But if Will Johnson's knee isn't busted and they slot him straight in across from AJ Terrell, one of the best corners in the league, that is a filthy pairing.
It's so good. Like you just have to look at that and go that is a huge upgrade on what they have and the potential for them to really dominate the NFC South on the back end. Because you've got to look at it that they're only really playing one quarterback of merit in that division. Because I'm not giving Jordan. I'm not giving Carolina their quarterback yet, and it looks like Derek Carr is going to be out. So like for me, I'm looking at that thinking that they could really dominate.
They're looking at Bryce Young and Spencer Rattler and absolutely licking their chops.
Oh yeah, absolutely right. And even Baker throws a turnover here and there. So you're looking at that thinking, yeah, they could get a few here, for sure. We'll go on to the Cardinals, and you've picked Walter Nolan, which is a very sensible pick and a need. What's your sort of thinking here?
They've just signed Calais Campbell.
Mm-hmm. He's old,
but yeah, he's old. They don't really have an upgraded defensive end, so I just think it could potentially be for them best player available, and it's a need they need to fill. So
that makes sense. I've gone for a completely different route, and I have gone for Matthew Golden. I just think that they need weapons, and I know they took one last year, but they don't have a lot of help out there. That wide receiver room is thin, and I think as they proved last year that you could go ahead and draft a potential generational receiver, but if you've got absolutely no one on the other side who's putting up any shaded cover, you just double cover. Marvin Harrison Jr. will be absolutely delighted if Matthew Golden comes and joins him, because I think that gives them a real dimension to be a threat on offense. They've already got a decent run game. They've already got Trey McBride. Like, if you bring Matthew Golden into this offense, I think it would be a really, really exciting time to be an Arizona Cardinals fan. And I actually think it really helps unlock Marvin Harrison Jr. This isn't mocking him because Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't have the year everyone expected. I actually think this is the piece they need to unlock, because they just don't have anyone out there who's really throwing up much shade that can draw some cover away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Bengals, you and I have both gone very sensible here. You have gone Tyler Booker here. I have gone with Sherman Stewart. I took best player available in a position of need. I think you did something very, very similar here, but they really need help at guard. They just let Kappa go because he had one of the worst seasons ever at guard. So it's a big need to fill there. So it makes a lot of sense. I imagine that. Is there any other reasons, or you?
No, I mean, they need help on the defense, but you've got to keep Joe Burrow upright, and that's where your money is, in the Bengals.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it wouldn't shock me if they went that way. I just think Stewart's almost too good an opportunity here at 17. Like, if he falls down this far because a couple of offensive players have gone, I just think you've got to lick your chops and take him. So I think it'd be interesting to see what happens here. 18. Who have you gone for? We've both gone for the same player, which is good.
Yeah, we've both taken Gray Zabel for the Seahawks tackle. Am I right in thinking he can basically play everywhere along the line?
Yeah.
Which surely 18 is a value at that point, because
I don't love where he's played.
Well, no, okay, yeah, he's played at North Dakota State. So for those of you that aren't familiar with college football, that's essentially the NFL B. We've seen Trey Lance turn up and do nothing, and he was supposed to be the second coming. forgive me, Father, for I had sinned. But yeah, I agree, but I just think he's very versatile, and Seahawks need help across that line. So
I think he can play. I think, as you say, there's a reasoning here for the Seahawks of you've got a new quarterback in Sam Darnold you've invested in. You need to give him an opportunity to get better and to get acclimatized and to have time to throw. And I think I look at the players left in this draft, and I think he's probably the best fit for them. So that kind of made sense. Next couple of picks, we've gone very similar. The Buccaneers are taking Campbell here out of Alabama.
yes, I'm pleased I got that right, Murf, for you.
Yeah. I think for me, it's there's a couple of angles they could have gone down here, but this probably looks from a fit perspective probably the best, and a need perspective. Like, I look at this and just think it makes a lot of sense. It's the pick I would like as well. So this is the pick if I was a Buccaneers fan. Tonight watching this is the name I hope comes out of the hat. There is some chances he could go at 11, at 13, maybe even at 14. But I think if he makes it past 14, I would expect him to probably end up on the Buccaneers roster, unless they do something crazy different. I've seen a lot of mocks with the Bucs taking in safety, and in particular been looking at Nick Amanawari, and I just think I've watched Jason Light draft for 10, 11 years. He's never taken a safety in round one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that trait breaks tonight. He had the opportunity to draft Derwin James and he passed. I just think if I look at positions valued, don't think that's one he values as much at linebacker. And, the Bucs need a lot of help in that interior linebacker position, because you've got, you need a lot of help there. There isn't much in that linebacker room. And, while it's great that you bought Levante David back, he's 34 now. You can't keep relying on him to have amazing seasons, season after season. And you need to bring someone in who's going to take over the room. And Devin Brook, Devin White was supposed to be that, and that hasn't panned out. So I think they go again. So that's my kind of thinking. And as much as you've got the pick that I want for my team, right, I have then matched you and done the same with Omarion Hampton for the Broncos. We're both there on him. So talk to me about why we've both got him there at 20.
Because of the offensive holes, he's running back is the biggest hole for the Broncos. And if we don't move up for Genty, unless something silly happens, I think Omarion Hampton's a great pick here for us at 20. I was tempted to add Luther Burden here, just because I think my only concern is he's very similar in stature, to Marvin Mims.
Yeah.
And they're not the same player. Mims is more of an outside guy, and Burden will play a lot from the slot, I think. Get him the ball quickly. And that would be great for Bo Nix second year, give him that extra safety blanket. But I think I'm not entirely sure if we're picking in the second round. Denver, I don't know where our pick is. I mean, the chance that Burden's there, wherever we're picking it in the second. But I just think Omarion Hampton is such a good fit for the Broncos. That trouble is, I've seen North Carolina running backs I really like end up at the Broncos, and it's not gone well.
You do have a day 2 pick. You're picking at 50. You have a second round pick. You're picking at 51.
Okay. Yep. See, I wouldn't hate it if we went wide receiver, running back in the first 2 picks, and we picked a later round running back for the second round. I'm not adverse to that, but we're not. We've both gone Hampton.
Yeah, I think just scheme wise makes the most sense here. 21, you've gone Derek Harmon here for the Steelers. So talk me through that one.
Pitsy's put something in the comments, Murph, but I can't see it because something's in the way. Okay, Pitsy, we haven't. Well, I haven't picked a quarterback for you here, mate. I've gone for Derek Harmon. Is that who I
Yeah,
Derek Harmon. They want a defensive tackle, and I just think Cam Hayward's not going to be there for much longer. So pick a successor. Yeah, that was why.
Yeah, I did what Pitsy didn't want. And picked Shedeur Sanders. I hate this pick.
I hate that pick.
I'm gonna preface this now that I hate this pick. Like, I genuinely look at this and think this is a terrible pick. And if it happens, I will feel sorry for all Steelers fans everywhere. It's not the pick I would make. It's not the pick that I think makes sense or is sensible. But I just think the Steelers have been led on a little merry dance by Aaron Rodgers here. And I think they have to take him. I just don't think they've got another option. Your options at this point are what? Teddy Bridgewater, Carson Wentz, hope that Rodgers signs, or Shedeur Sanders.
God, you paint a stinky picture.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I just look at what is available, and I just have to sit there and if there's any team in the NFL that can get the best out of Shedeur Sanders and get him playing to a pro level, the one team here I would back to get him to play to a reasonable standard is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's the best compliment I can give a team. I actually think that they could make it work. Do I think they would win a Super Bowl with Shedeur Sanders? No. Do I think they can make the playoffs with Shedeur Sanders? Yeah, probably. Do I think DK Metcalf's going to lose his crap? Probably. I just look at this situation and I just think, if Aaron Rodgers had signed by now, I don't think this pick gets made. But I don't think ownership is going to go into tonight and miss the opportunity to take the second best quarterback in the draft. And I think any other quarterback you take here, you're banking to start day one. And I think that Jackson Dart is nowhere near it. I don't think any of the other quarterbacks, I don't think necessarily Shedeur Sanders is ready to start day one, but I think he's the one you could get the most ready for day one. And it is horrible. Like, Pitsy, I'm sorry. Like, I don't wish this upon the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't sit here and want this to happen and it manifest into a reality here. But I just think that the Steelers have absolutely missed the boat. And I think that had they gone after different quarterback options, they would have been in a better place. Instead, they played Rodgers roulette. And, I mean, that's just not something you want to do at this stage of your life. I will say this. I actually think Shedeur Sanders will be more successful for the Steelers than Aaron Rodgers will be.
That cannot possibly be untrue.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is absolutely washed.
Yeah, exactly that. So I don't love this pick. Like, I don't like, if this was another year where there were other quarterback options, I would say, oh, well, the Steelers, they could trade up. They could go and get somebody. Like, I don't even look at backup quarterbacks that are out there and think, oh, yeah, the Steelers can go and do that. Like, it's Mason Rudolph, or it's, like what? Trade for Will Levis?
Oh, God.
Like, but this is what I mean. This is your world now. If you're a Steelers fan, is wait on Rodgers, go and trade for Will Levis, go and sign Teddy Bridgewater or Carson Wentz, or draft Shedeur Sanders.
Is your world now?
But that is your world now. Like, that is the world that's created. And like, I just think if I look at all those options, unfortunately, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, Shedeur Sanders is the best option. And we saw this with the Steelers a couple of years ago when they took Kenny Pickett. Like, you can get away from this fairly quickly. Like, this is not saying this is your quarterback for the next 5 years. This is your quarterback for the next season, maybe 2. And I think you can go again in the draft next year and go pick someone. And whereas you shouldn't look at your first round pick as a 1-year option, I think you have to look at it and think, if the Steelers want to keep up a record of being competitive, they need to do it. Whereas And I think if there's one place that can kind of shut the Sanders circus out the door, like I wouldn't want to mess with Mike Tomlin. Like I think Mike Tomlin runs a really tight ship. I look at the Steelers, and I know everyone kind of takes the mickey that they make the playoffs a ton, but they don't ever sort of win, right? In terms of Super Bowls, and they're not competing in the AFC championships for all these years, right? And that it's a valid argument that Mike Tomlin's playoff record over the last decade has been pretty poor. But the reason it's been pretty poor is he's a victim of his own success. He's drafting in the 20s every single year. He's getting teams to the playoffs every single year. And so they're not getting these high draft picks, and they're not getting that ability to just really kick on. But I think the Steelers roster has been fairly average for about a decade. And the fact that Mike Tomlin continues to take fairly average roster to the playoffs every single year, pretty much, is a pretty great achievement. And I think if there's any place that I think can just handle this situation, it is them. And it's a great compliment. I think they've got a great front office. I think for me, they've got one of the best head coaches in the NFL. I think they've got the setup and everything there for a player to come in. And the reason I would say Sanders over Dart is I don't think Dart is anywhere near ready to come in and play. I think Dart needs a year, maybe 2, to sit. I think he's so far away from being ready. And you could go with the Mill Row project, but I think that would drive Steelers fans crazy. Yeah. And I think, and then you might as well, like you've lit your DK Metcalf on fire by drafting Jalen Milroe. So I think this is the only one that kind of makes sense. And I think what you do is with DK is for a year, you play with that like hybrid slot role, and you just throw him the ball 200 times. I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay. It's
anyway,
compelling.
Spent a long time talking about it, but that's kind of where I'm at. And I get it's a bit weird, and that's probably the one that everyone's going to look in here and go, yeah, I don't see it. But yeah, I feel like that's where we're going. Let's go to the Chargers. I've taken Derek Harmon, who you took off the board. I just think it's a position of need. And you've got Matthew Golden here for the Chargers, which could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. They've hosted a lot of wide receivers recently for visits. And like you said, I thought it would be fun. I really think Jim Harbaugh's going to potentially either trade up to get Colston Loveland and get that Michigan link back. But I think it seems like a silly move for the Chargers to just do that. If he drops, potentially, then yes. Yeah. It's a long way, but Kenneth Grant potentially could fall, and there's a Michigan link there. I don't think he will, but I just think they've had so many receivers in for visits. They need somebody else. And if Matthew Golden's there at 22, then it's a bit of a steal, really.
Yeah, if I had him on my board available here, that would be one. I think Loveland, if he doesn't go at 14, could be on the board here at 22. In my first few mock drafts, this is the landing spot I had for Loveland, so I wouldn't be too shocked if that's kind of what happened. But yeah, I don't hate that. Again, Golden's gone on my board, so this wasn't even an option. But I think Golden will be gone before here, so it would be interesting to see if Loveland falls, or if they take somebody else, or decide to wait for round 2. I kind of went with the scenario they're going to wait, and instead build on the D. That's kind of where I expected them to go. Right, 23 with the Packers. You've got them going wide receiver, as do a lot of people. Talk us through that one.
They never go first round wide receiver, but I think this could potentially be the year. Buka's been for a visit with the Packers. Christian Watson just isn't the guy, and I think potentially a man who's had a serious season at Ohio State can really bolster this wide receiver room. Who's their other wide receiver? Name is escaping me.
What, the Packers?
Yeah.
Well, they've got a whole host of them. I don't think they've got a true one. I mean, you've got Watson. You've got you've just
we've had a collective brain fart, Rush Nation.
Oh God, it's literally like on the tip of my tongue, and it's just completely gone.
If I Google anything on my laptop, it will die.
I'll tell you. Do you know, it's so annoying. Dontavian Wick, Jaden Reed, that's who I was thinking of.
Jaden Reed, yeah.
Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Dobbs is there.
No.
Melton's there. Like,
none of them are ones. I think we've seen Ohio State wide receivers do pretty well, and Emeka Buka is pretty good, and I think he'd be all right at Green Bay.
Yeah, whereas I have not done that because I don't believe they'll ever do it. So I've got Mike Green. I think they've got enough wide receivers and they've got plenty of mouths to feed. I don't think they need another one. And I actually think for Egbuka that could be a horrible landing spot. Just because I think he'd be under so much competition for targets. So I've gone with them taking an edge, and I've got them taking Mike Green because I just think they need to get some additional pressure, and they need to really sort of step it up a bit. So that's kind of where I've gone with this. Now you have the Vikings picking at 24, and you have them going with a safety.
Yeah, they've gone for Nick Emenwari, South Carolina. Harrison Smith's getting older. He's not going to be there for many more seasons. And this guy is a safety who's built like a linebacker. Extremely, extremely athletic. He's got great instincts. And I think he fits in as a Viking perfectly. I've also seen who you've got at 24, and I don't like this one bit.
Yeah, well, I have to assume that it's all going to be very, very different, right? But you're right about Harrison Smith. He is getting a bit older. There is a need to bring someone in, and I think it does make some sense. I have the Vikings trading out for draft capital, and I have the Giants coming in and taking Jackson Dart, and I absolutely hate this pick. it is the most Giants pick ever.
It's fair to say that the Vikings would trade out because they only have 4 picks.
All day long. And I just think it's an easy, and I think that the clamor behind New Orleans and Cleveland and all these teams that need a quarterback, I just see a world where the Giants do something stupid like this. And it is like, I'm going to fundamentally call it as it is, that I see this happening because it's stupid. This would just be so dumb on so many levels. Like, you've just signed 2 quarterbacks, and then you're going to trade back into the first round and take Jackson Dart. Like, I just think the logic on it is you're going to jump on everyone else. They absolutely love Jackson Dart. Like, they absolutely love Jackson Dart, and they desperately want Jackson Dart. And I think they're going to pay a king's ransom to get him.
At 24.
At 24. And do you know what? I'm not even going to rule out the possibility of him taking them at 3. That's how mental I think that could happen. Like, if they take him at 3, that's even worse than taking him at 24. Like, if they take him at 3, that is worse than taking Daniel Jones at 6 all those years ago when you would have got him at 15.
Yeah.
Like,
I can't disagree with that.
I just think this is. I think it's a stupid pick. I don't like it. I don't think it's a good pick. I don't think it makes sense. I just think it's what the Giants will do. I just back them every year to do something stupid out of desperation. And you got Joe Schoen there, who is desperately clinging on to his life there as the GM, and I think he'll placate the fans by taking the next quarterback. And I think he'll be awful. Like, I genuinely think putting Jackson Dart in the Meadowlands might be one of the worst landing spots possible. Like, I just think everything about it screams absolutely terrible, and that's why I think it will happen. Okay.
Wonder what the odds are on Jackson Dart going to the Giants at 24 tonight. That would be incredible.
I don't know, but if there's a market for it, someone go and bet it, because I can just see it happening.
There'll be a market for sure.
Let's go on to 25. We've got the Texans. You've got them taking a wide receiver here in Luther Burden.
Yeah, I hate this. I absolutely hate it. I wanted to go guard or offensive line, and then thought they really need some extra help apart from Nico Collins. So I gave them my dream receiver from this draft, and it makes me feel a bit sick in the mouth.
Yeah, I couldn't do it because I actually don't think anyone has Burden in the first round. I don't have Burden in the first round here, so I've got them taking a guard because they got rid of their entire offensive line, and I think they need to bring offensive line help in there. So I've got them taking Tyler Booker out of Alabama, who I think you had go to the Bengals. So I am going a bit later in this one.
I genuinely don't think Luther Burden will go in the first round because I don't think Green Bay would take a receiver. So if Booker was
so
here,
what's your mock based on? Is it just based on?
No, it's based on what I would,
vibes.
I think they are going to take a wide receiver,
Yeah.
but I actually, in reality, don't think they will.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think if he's there, then I think they take a Booker at 25.
Whereas I stand by my mock on the grounds of I think it's so stupid it's likely to happen.
Hey, look, once you planted that flag, my man, do not tear it down.
No, it's staying. Right, let's move on to 26. We've gone the same route for the LA Rams in taking a corner, and we've both got Barron going here. Just very sensible pick. Kind of makes sense. And the same here with the Ravens taking Malachi Starks. This just is like, if I could say there's like one pick from 10 onwards that I could just nail on right now, this is the pick. Like, I just look at this pick and I just think, yeah, that's nail on. That's the most Ravens pick ever. And it makes complete sense. And it's going to be an absolute smash hit. And take that all the way to the bank.
Isn't it incredible how Malachi Starks could be an absolute star from this draft, and we have him falling to 27 to join one of the best defensive units in the league, and who, by the way, played Kyle Hamilton last year at safety because they needed one, is one of the best linebackers in the league, and now they can move him back to linebacker, draft potentially the best safety, one of the, I don't know, I think he could be top 5 defensive from this draft class if all the stars align. And it's at 27 to the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, for fantasy purposes, yeah,
we're both there on it. Like, this is what I mean. Like, I just look at this and go, "This is like the most nailed-on pick in this draft," and I love it.
It's exactly the same as when the Ravens drafted Patrick Queen. It's exactly the same as when they drafted Kyle Hamilton. You could bank this before the draft happens. Yeah. Everybody knows it's going to happen, and nobody stops it. No. Come on.
Again, one of the best front offices in football, just continuing to baffle everyone and, do everything that they should do and do it well. So, yeah, I love this.
For fantasy purposes, the Baltimore Ravens defense gets better. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely madness. We'll move on to the lines here. We've got them both taking edges. We have different edges here. So you have them taking Ezewake, and I have them going with Nick Scrouton. I have Ezewake going next pick to the Commanders. So obviously we see that edge is a big need for them. They need to get some help. I don't know if Aiden Hutchinson's even going to be back for the start of this season. So he might be, might not be. I don't know. So I think, they need some help there. For sure. And then we've both got edge next. We've got Mike Green, who you've got Mike Green, who I've already got gone in this draft, and there's Wacker who I've got. So again, we look at those positions and we have big positions of need. Edge is quite deep in this class, but I think this is the point where the tier starts to happen at edge. And I think like once these guys go, there's a bit of a drop. So it makes sense to kind of take them here, unless you're thinking anything sort of different here.
No, I can see the Commanders being ridiculous and taking a running back at this point because they do need a stud running back. But Mike Green was here for me, excuse me, and he's a value at 29, sorry. So, yeah, all day, easy.
Yeah. I'm with you here. 30, we've got similar-ish picks, but slightly different. Chavron Revel, who is someone who I don't have in the first round, because I went Nick Scrouton, who you don't have in the first round. Most of our first rounders are kind of similar, which is quite interesting in its own self. That this kind of tells you the indictment of the draft. Normally, you'd have, I don't know. I think we probably have 6 or 8 differences. I think we've got 2. In terms of you've got Burden and Revel, and I've got Dart and Scrouton. And I think they're like the only differences. I think the other 30 we've got. Oh, yeah. You haven't got Sanders, actually, have you?
No.
So there's got to be another one. Yeah, but we're talking about three aside here, are probably a bit different. So, so you've gone corner. I've gone safety. I took Manwari, who I just think this is just such a good pick if it happens. And I think it's what Bills fans want as well, but it's just whether or not he's still there.
I just think the Bills, they just don't have that standout corner at the moment.
No.
You know, Tre'Davious White's gone. Russell Douglas is a free agent. Even if they re-sign him, they don't have that. You know, for so many years, Tre'Davious White was locked down for them. And I think Shavon Revel is not a first-round talent now.
No.
I think he's got potential to be a player worthy of first-round talent. And he's very fast, massive. And I think he's a very, very Buffalo pick. Like Bills Mafia would get behind this guy. So
yeah, I would agree with that. The only reason I've gone Nwari, who I think is a first round player and I think is a better talent, is that they've got a dead man playing safety in DeMar Hamlin. They've got a man who actually died. So I think it's probably a good idea to get someone in who hasn't died to play. I shouldn't make a joke of it, but it is one of those situations. So yeah, and then 31-32, we've gone exactly the same. We've got Simmons and Connolly there going to these teams again. I think either of these teams could move out, and you could look at, in my world, obviously I've got 3 QBs gone. I can't see anyone going up for Milrow, but I could see someone getting itchy feet and maybe doing a deal with one of these two teams. In your world, I think it's definitely more likely that someone comes up for Shedeur.
Yes.
Because I think someone's going to need to take him. And I think they're here. You're getting into the realms of it's not a bad pick if it doesn't work kind of realm.
For me, I think of these two teams, the Eagles, in my mock, it's much more likely that somebody comes up to the Eagles spot than the Chiefs. I just think the Chiefs got rid of Tooney, and he was such a big part of their Super Bowl run. For them not to take a tackle here is borderline criminal for Patrick Mahomes. So we've seen it before. You know, Patrick Mahomes said he wanted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and it would not surprise me if he says, "Please get me a tackle."
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I agree with that logic 110%. And I think there will be something there in this. I think what's really interesting, having done this exercise, is a few things. One, we've highlighted how thin this class is, and what we said at the top really does stand true. That you and I have managed to get 29 of the same 32 players in the first round, which is really unheard of.
Well, for anybody who's been with us for a long time, Murph, know that you and I value players pretty differently. Well, we've got there's several that are the same throughout the season or whatever, but we generally have a fairly different value on players. So for the fact that I am surprised we've even got 60% of the same players, let alone how many we do.
Yeah, and I think that tells you about the class more than anything. That there is that indictment, and I think it's interesting that we've gone quite a lot of similar thinking here in terms of Warren, Ted McMillan, and those sorts of players. Definitely going, and like Matthew Golden, I know we've got them going to different teams, but the line of thinking there is very, very similar, and it's something I would do if Golden made it that far, would be the trigger I pull. So I think there's a lot, and like Hampton, I think there's a lot of picks here on the offensive side of the ball that you look at and you think, we're very well aligned, which again, because you and I do view the world differently, really tells you that there isn't a lot of way to view this, which is why I think this is quite a talent poor class to a degree.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting. I've got to be honest, this is one of those years that I probably don't have the same excitement because I think it feels very chalky. And normally I would kind of come into this, think I do one of these exercises and think I'm going to be wrong so badly. And maybe I've gone a little bit off kilter to try and be wrong. But I don't know. Like, I just feel like there has to be some movement tonight. And it'll be interesting to see where it's going to happen.
Yeah. there will definitely be movement tonight because I say there always is. There's that one year, a couple of years ago, where everybody thought quarterbacks were going to go bananas and nothing happened in the first 5 picks.
Yeah, 2022.
But, you know, I've forgotten what I was going to say now. But yeah, it's I won't be surprised anywhere near as much as I am when I wake up in the morning. And you and I have this. I don't watch it because I don't have the time between when I start. I mean, what time is it now? I officially start work in 7 hours, 25 minutes ish. So I don't have the time between sleeping, waking up, wanting to know what happens. So I just consume the first round in writing. But I won't message you until you message me because you watch it and the picks come in, and you message me as you watch it, which I always quite enjoy every year. So
yeah, because it depends how I do it. So sometimes I stay up and watch it, and sometimes I go to bed and then turn my phone completely silent, and then I'll wake up and watch it. And I think this year is going to be one of those years because I've been on Aussie time this week for the day job, and then I also was out last night at the Emirates, and so I really am quite sleep deprived at this point. So I'm going to sleep. I've made that decision. I'm going to sleep, and then I'm going to. My son will probably wake me up around 4, and I'll probably watch it through then. So I'll skip a lot. Like I'll skip all the adverts. I'll skip some of the commentary because. And I think in this class, I don't need to hear as much of the commentary than ever before. But yeah, I do text you and I'm like, this is going on. I'm like, what was this?
Oh my God. I know, but I can't tell you about that next
No,
one.
I know. I think my favorite one was when you guys drafted Noah Fant.
Was that the same year you drafted Devin White?
Yeah, I think so. We got White at 5. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because we traded back with Pittsburgh in that. They drafted Devin Bush at 10, I think.
That's
we
right.
Traded back and drafted Noah Fant and what's his face?
Yeah.
Drew Lock.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good times.
Yeah, it was. This has been a fun exercise. I've enjoyed this. I think it's going to be interesting to see, and then we'll start to pick apart where we are. I will try and jump on tomorrow and do a break down this draft round 1 and thoughts for fantasy and immediate reactions. So I'll jump on and do that. Yeah, and then we're going to start getting some guests in. So we've got a great guest next week that will help us start to break it down from a fantasy perspective, and we'll start really digesting this draft from a fantasy perspective, and we'll start gearing up for fantasy season. Now we know where we're going to be. So exciting times ahead. Enjoy tonight if you're watching, and make the most of it because it is draft night, even though we've just sat here and pretty much crapped on this draft for the last hour.
Well, no. All we've done is we've collectively told you exactly how it's going to go, basically.
Yeah. I feel like that this is one of those years where I feel pretty confident in how, even though we've got it going slightly differently, even the bits where we've gone slightly differently, we still end up roughly similar. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I can't wait to and with the first pick, the Tennessee Titans.
Select Sanders.
Look at this joker who's coming to the chat.
Oh, Tom.
Ash is, I think Ash is really busy at the moment. I know he's coaching, the round ball stuff, and he's got busy sales on at the moment.
Selling many helicopters.
Yeah, I mean, I know you did the college show. It was you, Ash, and there was another bloke, wasn't there, who jumped on from time to time, and then Ash did it with the other bloke for a while. I can't remember his name, whoever he was.
No, it's gone. It's past.
Yeah.
Catchy jingle, though.
Catchy jingle. I love it. Welcome to the chat, Tom Scott. How the devil are you? In fact, Tom, if you're still on the line, have a look at Stocks' mock. Have a look at our mock. We're just about to wrap, and as we're getting ready to wrap, see if you could just jot some quick thoughts on what you think.
Spoiler alert, Murph. I sent him mine because of my Michigan run at 13, 14, 15. I sent him my mock yesterday and said, "What do you reckon on this?"
Yeah.
So no, we We love you, Tom. We miss you.
Yeah,
Hope
we
you're
do.
well.
And the Bulldogs still suck.
Yeah.
Glory Hunter. Tom's got forever the Glory Hunter.
Well, I don't know. He's a Jets fan, so
And a
best
Bolton
of luck
Wanderers
tonight.
fan. Yeah, I
Yeah.
suppose you had to have some wins that he stole and manufactured.
Hey, look, we're blasting Tom. Rush Nation,
we love Tom.
we really hope that you get your NFL draft Christmas wish tonight, whether it be trading out if you've got no picks or drafting a player that you really don't want. We hope that doesn't happen to you. And
or
if
you end up with your fancy Cole and get Shedder Sanders.
Yeah. But if you are a Ravens fan, congratulations on drafting Malachi Stars.
Imagine if they drafted Shedder Sanders tonight.
Oh my goodness. Something's happened. Something has happened and the Ravens are broken. If that
they brought him in to be a number 2 to Lamar.
that cannot happen. Absolutely. Look, this has got crazy, Rush Nation. It's draft night. Murph's tired. It's time to go to bed. Enjoy yourselves. Don't ruin it for your friends. And as always, don't forget, keep rushing.